protection of the certain parts of the body. While the glandular part is concerned with the glandular secretion in different glands in the body. Regarding the muscle, or the muscular tissue, is composed of elongated contractile cells. So the main feature that the cells are contractile. They have this capability of contraction and relaxation. Here, the extracellular material is of moderate amount, while the main function is strong contraction and body movement. And lastly, we have the connective tissue. It has several types of different types of cells. يعني أصلاً connective tissue connective zooxanthellae. It's a variety and different types of shapes and different types of characteristics in the cell. We will mention them later on in the upcoming weeks in the studying of the connective tissue. Here we can see that the amount of the extracellular material is abundant, large amount. Abundant, we mean large amount of extracellular material. And the function, it's for support and protection of tissues and organs. هلا connective tissue, يعني it will connect different types of tissues in the body and fill the spaces between them. So it acts as a supportive type of tissues. So before we start to describe these four main types, we need to describe certain terms in histology and to describe the methods of examination of tissues in general before we start to discuss each tissue type separately. So we have these terms, the specimen, biopsy, tissue sections. We want to define them. So what is the human specimen? Because we have many specimens. We have animal specimen, we have metal specimen. We, as medical students, are concerned with studying human specimens. So, as it could be animal, plant, or metal specimen, and other branches of study. So, the human biological specimen is any material derived from human, such as blood, could be urine, could be tissues, organs, saliva, hair, and nail. Anything that could be extracted from the human body during an operation or during a surgical procedure, any operation, the surgery be under anesthesia, any minor operation, it is considered as a specimen, human specimen. Second, we have the biopsy, which is a sample of cells, tissues, or organs taken from the body by a surgeon usually, in order to be studied and examined under microscope to determine the type of the tissue or the presence or extent of the disease. Maybe one of you will ask, so what is the difference between specimen and biopsy? Biopsy and specimen, they are similar in the general meaning, but we can say that the biopsy is more general. يعني كتو biopsy ورقي parcheki قواتي ورقي بلان specimen usually it is more specific and smaller than the biopsy. This is the difference between them. So biopsy is more general term. Regarding tissue sections. Section لواها توقتوش كي section يعني ما بس تشي cutting. So you section the tissue to parts, to smaller parts, to thin parts to be examined. So tissue samples that we take in it as in the form of specimen or in the form of biopsy are too thick for light to pass them. So tissues must be sliced into thin translucent section for about 1 to 10 micrometer in thickness in order to be seen under microscope, in order for the light to be able to pass through this section and later on to be examined under the light microscope. And tissue sections is only used in the sections which is related to tissues, organs, not the liquid type of tissues, like in the form of blood, urine, and tissue section. يعني هلا لو كيف tissue يعني toilet tissue ولا okay? So regarding the types of biopsies, we have many different types of biopsies. They are the more general. أنواع زور زيادة الحالتهم. Procedure زور منها. But the main types are these discussed. This is good for the undergraduate students. For example, we have the smear. Smear شيء بعربي بيوتري مسحة. يعني أي سريبة. توزيع يسلط شوكة. The special type of cotton. You just whip it and send it to the pathologist to be studying it. This is performed in the region of the cervix, in the female genital organ. And we have the curettage. Curettage, it's coming from the word curate. Curate يعني parçayı بتشوفه قريب. A small piece of tissue be taken by an instrument, a sharp instrument called curate. This is used in the endometrial cavity, again in the female genital tract, so the endometrial lining of the uterus. We have needle biopsy, like this. You have a lesion, an abscess, or any lesion. You can you can put the needle and draw the secretion, whatever, if it was pus or any other material collected under the skin, for example. And you can use also another sharp instrument to take a piece of the skin, like in this example. So the needle type is used in the brain, in the breast, liver, kidney, muscle. You have only to memorize only one or two of these of these locations of the types of biopsy. يعني إذا بتصير لها الامتحان for the needle, you can mention one or two. You no need to remind all of them. Regarding the direct incision, like in this is the direct incision, for example, in the skin, again in the mouth or in the region of the larynx. We have the endoscopy, which is using the specific instruments to enter inside the body, especially the elementary, the canals inside the body. For example, the respiratory tract, the bronchi, the elementary canal. So you can use this instrument, which is a tube-like hard instrument. You push it. It's from outside rubbery and hard, but it is flexible, so it can move in a different direction inside the body canal. So, and at the end, at the top of the instrument, you have a sharp knife-like material. It can take small biopsies whenever the surgeon wants, from the wall of the elementary canal or from the wall of the respiratory tract airways. So it is used in the lung, in the intestine, and inside the bladder. The transvascular, from its names, it is inside the vessels of each organ. For example, from the heart or from the liver. This one is another instrument used to take a biopsy from the breast. And this one is a skin biopsy. This is a special instrument used to take, it enters deep into the skin, into the different layers of the skin, and can extract different layers of the skin. So it is called punch type of biopsy. So this is used mainly in the skin. Another term that you should know detail about it before studying histology is the relationship between different measurements in the body. So you have the meter, for example. You know, of course, the millimeter is equal to 10 raised to power minus 3 meter, while the micrometer equals 10 raised to power minus 6 meter. Nanometer is 10 minus 9 meter, and angstrom unit. It's represented by this A letter with a small circle. It's equal to 10 raised to power minus 10 meter. So this is the measurements used in studying tissues in histology. Regarding the tissue preparation, all of you have attended the practical session today, so you have a brief description for the process of tissue processing. What is the reason that we process tissues before examination, and the general steps of the tissue preparation. So in order to study the tissue structure, we need to examine them under light microscope and electron microscope. طبعا انواع الميكروسكوب اجبار زور معناها بلا هو روتيني كاندرجراجويت احيانات يعني احتمال بكالي بينه ازدماد light microscope mainly, and later on in different stages you might see the electron microscope and take detailed study about the electron microscope. Tissues have to be prepared for microscopic examination. So before I want to examine any type of tissue, whether any type of microscope, light, electron, or any other types of microscopes, I have to prepare the tissues. The steps of tissue preparation, it is called tissue procedure, tissue preparation procedure, or processing, tissue processing. So we will mention the steps in general and the different types of the agents used in each step and the importance of each type of these agents. You have to memorize these agents and the use of them, and what is the most favorable type used routinely for undergraduate, for examination for under light microscope. So regarding the fixation, which is the first step, if we want a permanent section to be remain in our laboratory for to be studied for long periods, these tissues should be prepared and fixed before. To avoid the tissue digestion by enzymes, these enzymes present in the cell themselves, so may cause destruction of the cell with time, it causes autolysis, or by bacteria from outside. So, and to prevent the structural and molecular composition to be changed, it is better to take the tissues and fix them with certain agents. We have two methods of fixation, as you studied. We have the chemical and the physical. The chemical one, from its name, we use different chemical agents to fix the tissues before examination. The physical one is by physical methods. So regarding the chemical ones, tissues are immersed in solutions of stabilizing or cross-linking agents like the fixatives. So we have fixatives used for the routine examination by light microscope. We have others used for the routine examination by the electron microscope. The best fixatives used for the routine light microscopy for undergraduate is the formaldehyde and glutenaldehyde. Regarding the physical one, is by either freezing, drying, or by using microwave. Mostly we use the freezing method. We are the physical type during the certain surgical procedures when the surgeon is in a hurry and he wants, for example, to take certain parts of organs or certain parts of canals, like the alimentary canal, due a disease or due to any cancer or tumor, for example, he has to decide how much to take from the tissue. Okay, so he takes a sample and he applies it to the pathologist, which is nearby the procedure room or the operation room. This tissue will be freezed, and later on, in a matter of few minutes, the pathologist can examine the tissue and send back the result to the surgeon so he can decide whether take 10 cm, 5 cm from the canal, for example, or from the affected organ. So this is very important. Regarding the second step is the dehydration and clearing. In this step, water is first extracted from the tissues to be embedded by bathing them successively in a graded series of mixture of ethanol and water from 70 to 100%. بلان إستا شيء بكارين حاليا absolute alcohol or absolute or ethanol, which is 90%. جرا نستطيع صوتيان بكارين, which is almost alcohol without a percentage of water with it. Nowadays they are using 70% to 90%. Later on, ethanol is replaced by a solvent, which is xylene. It makes the tissue transparent, so it is responsible for the process of clearing. What is the responsible? What is the agent responsible for the action of dehydration? It is alcohol or ethanol. And what is the agent which is responsible for clearing or making the tissues clear and transparent? Is the xylene. So you have to memorize these agents and each one the function of it. Clearing is important for removing alcohol and permitting tissue infiltration with paraffin wax. يعني أما لاستيج يدوي أو embedding من هي embedding water to tissue section. It is soft. Before you have to section it, you need it to be hard, a bit hard. So you have to embed it in a material which is hard, like paraffin wax. But before you do the process of hardening, you have to clear the tissue from its water, dehydrated by alcohol from its water, so there will be no water, and the spaces inside the cells and between the cells can be easily filled later on with the embedding material, which is the paraffin wax, in the state of light microscope. بلان electron microscope نحقق embedding material. So in the state of embedding, tissues are usually embedded in a solid medium to facilitate sectioning. To obtain thin sections by microton, tissues are infiltrated with embedding substances that give a rigid consistency, like paraffin wax, is used for routine light microscopy. Balan bo electron microscope, chi bakareheni, plastic resin. Haruku shkeke biotre epoxy, bakareheni namorojan epoxy, wajorek glue. Okay, so this a glue-like material that it hardens very quickly, and it is very hard. Or epoxia, scientifically, biotre plastic resin. And this plastic resin is used for purposes of examination tissue, of embedding tissue in the state of examination by electron microscope. In the lighter, we use paraffin wax, and the electron, we use resin, and plastic resin. And what is the cause for this? Is that during examination by electron microscope, we need a very thin sections. The sections should be much thinner than the state in the examination by light microscope. Here in the light microscope, we need 1 to 10 micrometer tissue thickness to be examined for the light to pass through here. While in the case of electron microscope, we need a tissue section of about 40 to 90 nanometer. Or micrometer, 1 to 10 micrometer, this is 40 to 90 nanometer. So very thick. It needs a very hard embedding material like the plastic resin, and it needs a very hard instrument to cut it again. Or instrument take a bakari in any section, it should be very sharp and very hard. So this is regarding the embedding step. Later on we go to the sectioning. يسألون شو كمان حازبو section مانكرد hard مانكرد وحازم مانكرد section بيا. Tissues must be sliced into thin sections and attached on glass slides before they can be examined. أو sectioning كأنوي و examination كم ليه كمان with certain instrument, and later on I'll apply it on a glass slide. I think today in the medical practical sessions you have seen the slides. Wabu, di tan slide kan, the glass slides. Di tan yan di. Okay, so these are small glass slides for the tissues to be put on there, and later on you fix it and you put it under the microscope to be examined under the microscope. For the sectioning to happen, we need a certain instrument. This instrument is called microscope. This is a fine cutting instrument used for sectioning. جهاز اللي يرى أو همي بيوتري microscope. So it has a place you can put the casket or the hardened or embedded tissue in this device, and there is in front of it a sharp part of steel that it will take when you move this tissue section by a wheel. It will take different sections of the tissue, and later on it will be taken to the glass slide. So here, this is important. The sections should be of 1 to 10 micrometer thickness for light microscopy. Later on, after this process, these tissues, they are, as we mentioned, they are transparent, they are clear, without any color. So we have to stain them. If we don't stain them, we cannot distinguish different parts or components of the cells, organs, or different types of tissues unless we stain them. So we use different stains. We have routine stains and special types of stains. The main tissue component that ionize and react with basic dyes do so because of acids in their composition, like the nucleic acids, glycosaminoglycans, which is part of the extracellular material, and the acid glycoproteins, while the acidic dyes stain the acidophilic components of the tissue, such as mitochondria, secretory granules, and collagen. أول جرين على process staining الإبزاني دو ترمها acidophilic basophilic. وأو دو ترمها ولا بروي إما routine examination tissues under light microscope. We use routine dyes, two types of dyes, basic dyes and acidic dyes. Bo لبروي of type أنا reaction and has affinity to certain parts of the tissue, certain parts of the cell. So if we say acidophilic part of the tissue or of the cell, we mean that this cell has affinity, this type of the cell or part of the cell has affinity to the acidic dye. Has the acidic dye here? What has the acidic dye here? Because basically it has basic component in it or basic composition in it. While the basophilic basophilic acidic content. So each type or each part of the cell will be with certain color because it has certain affinity to certain type of nerves. Regarding the last step is the mounting. To preserve and support a stained section of the light microscope, it is mounted on a clear glass slide, يعني أخيط clear glass slide as I told you, and covered with a thin glass cover slip. أبي parçayı plastik iteni كربو هنبت طبعا transparent به. أخيط tissue section كربو فيكسيكا ونجوا like The slide and cover slip must be free of optical distortion to avoid artifact, and mounting medium prepared DPX is used to adhere the cover slip to the slide. طبعا تو cover هذا يعني a bit fixed here. So material البكاري which is called DPX. It is three different materials in a mixture that makes the cover slip be adherent to the tissue and will not disturb the tissue. Regarding the routine dyes, أول جرينجا استعلى ToB زاني routine dye كمان شيا كبكار area for examination under light microscope. Routinely, we have two routine dyes: the hematoxylin and eosine. Hematoxylin and eosine. So it is a basic dye. أمان molecular cell basic dye. That say it saves the basophilic tissue components, those parts that react to basic dyes because of acids in their composition. Bonomana كي حزيلة مدايانية to interact with them, the nucleic acid, the nucleus, RNA, and chromatin DNA. It stains them purple and blue. The reaction أبي رانكتشي درك ولا جمع مicroscope it stains blue. More أبي رانكي. باشي أنشي بعد جاشي نجيبه. While the eosine, it is acidic dye. It stains the acidophilic tissue components that react to acidic dye because of their basic nature. Basha. Example: mitochondria, secretary granules, and the collagen fibers. Those, when interact with the eosine, they give under microscope pink color. So it stains them in a light color, which is pink. Slide. These are actual slides, fixed and prepared by the usual steps that I mentioned. They are prepared for examination under light microscope. We see, in general, roughly, fish oil cell, which structure do color. We see two colors. طبعا هذا routine staining color. So we see the blue or purple color, and we see the pinkish color. And it depends the way the slide being prepared, the way the slide being stained. بعض الرجال أو كسامة إنها حازمين the technician which is responsible for the preparation of the slides or for the tissue processing جاي واحد بعنايته يعني مثلا كاتبة سرعة أو preparing كبوشيوري كايديالا. So sometimes it takes more staining. وهي أمانة لباتي أو يرجدتش it will be dark blue, sometimes dark. Bashna احتمالا eosina, this pinkish layer, it might be changed to red. أجر staining كلا كاتي وفتوى ما هم كاتي هيا ميني توتيان for staining. أجر تجاوزي أو كاتي وهي رجلك it's not favorable and not ideal. But these two slides are ideal. So you can see these are the nuclei of the cell. These are a group of epithelial cells lined beside each other. We have the nuclei at the base of the cell. Agar seri far cell, okay, this is the base of the cell. This is the apical part of the cell. دائما nucleosacca it is basophilic. It's like the basic gas like hematoxylin, so it takes the purple or the blue color. While the cytoplasm it is acidophilic in nature. It has affinity to acidic dye, which is the eosine. Well, I can show you pinkish, light pinkish, sometimes gray. Again, how to مثلا enough time in there, لباتي أوي pinkish it will be gray in color. على الأمور it is light and the region of the basophilic is darker. Regarding the special dyes for certain parts or certain ultrastructures of the cell that we cannot see with the routine dyes. Now we have the Ginza stain. It's very useful stain in identifying parasites or pathogenic bacteria are also used in blood films, including peripheral blood spheres. And we have the iron or Prussian blue, useful when staining liver or bone marrow biopsies. It identifies the presence presence of iron deposits. هلا أنا وكيف هو we detect iron, okay? Periodic acid shift passage procedure, special procedure, special staining procedure. It stains the cells that are rich in carbohydrates. أجل one منها شو sample كمها بيان شو specimen كمها بيوأمنها أو سيلانة بيبينه mainly involved in the production of the carbohydrate. So I'll use this stain to detect them. It stains macrophages, for example, connective tissue, collagen, and basement membrane. عادة أو شو يعني كأنه ديار بيجي واحد ديار مية بلام مثلا مية من بولونا نيوكليس بيبين من عمل نيوكليس بيبين المهم بلامة collagen fiber بيبين يعني basement membrane بيبين للسيلكا. So I'll use this type of stain. And lastly, we have the trichromes, which is of two types: molar stains and Manson stains. It distinguishes collagen and muscle within a specimen. وهي specimen كبيوز بكولاجين فايبر كبيبيني زيادة ماشي يعني مصل بيبيني والجوازيان درخا. So here we have two slides staying with the PASS method, as you see here. Usually the PASS method stains those cells which are involved in the carbohydrate production magenta color. Magenta يعني رنجي ماروني جيجاري ماروني. This is called magenta. So it is a special type of stain. It also stains the goblet cell. This is the villi in the small intestine. You can see these rounded magenta color cells. They are rounded circular magenta color cells. These are the goblet cells. Goblet cell which is rich in the carbohydrate. So this stain has affinity to carbohydrate and it will stain them directly to the magenta color. Other thing that we have to know about histology before studying it is the way to interpret a slide or a tissue section. How can you imagine this tissue section, how it is sectioned, from which part of the body? You have to imagine it. So we have different types or ways of sectioning. In general, any part of the body, when you take it, organ or tissue is a three-dimensional structure. Okay? So those three-dimensional structure, when you come and section them for the process of examining under microscope, you have to put in your mind that you cannot see the three-dimensional structure, you will only see two dimensions. For example, here, we have section through a hollow swelling. This is a hollow organ. كلمة hollow, and the cavity, it has a cavity inside. It's empty from inside. So this hollow swelling or circular structure, or a tube-like structure, for example, a hollow tube structure, let's say a part of the alimentary canal or the GI tract, it is hollow, empty inside, tube-like structure. So you have to imagine them. If we section it in this direction, so the interpretation will be an image or a diagram of two sections, of two dimensions, not three dimensions. If you cut from here, it will look like this circle. From the middle part of the hollow swelling, you will get a large circular structure. While in the tube, it depends on the level of the section. So here it is helical, small part. While here it is because through the longer distance inside the tube, so it takes a long or type of helical structure which is larger than the one before. So you have to imagine how the section is made to can decide the type of the tissue under the microscope. Here we have another tube-like structure which is tortuous. If you section it like that, it will look under the microscope like this. So you won't see it as a three-dimensional or a tube-like structure. Or this cylindrical shape, when you cut it in these different sections, each one will give you a two-dimensional image, which is different according to the plane of section. طبعا أماني كباسي كين إساحة يمكن ميقولاتهم بلان لمراحل ترى when you go through systematic examination of different types of systems in the body, you will need this type of interpretation and imagining which part of the body and how this part of the body is sectioned to decide the disease or the affected part of the body. So it's very important. Regarding the problems in the study of the tissue sections, we have different problems. In general, هنمشي بيوتري artifacts. Histology and histopathology artifacts. So let us discuss them briefly. One such distortion is minor shrinkage of the cells or tissue regions. وهي tissue section كوري كتو shrink bit. باشا كوري اللي بداية section كا shrink نية بلان كده يعني دو المواد سيركي shrink a bit. So in this type, it is produced by the effective fixative وهي shrinkage ruska. For example, by the alcohol or the ethanol in the dehydration state, or sometimes because of the heat which is used during the process of the impeding by paraffin ox. Shrinkage can produce the appearance of artificial spaces between cells or tissue components. So this is one artifact. Another artifact is loss of molecules. When you take a part of a tissue or a type of organ and you want to examine the types of the cells in that organ, you want to see all the details and the ultrastructure inside the cells. For example, the mitochondria, the nucleus, and different secretory granules in the cell. So if you, during the process of the preparation of the tissue, if you lost part of these molecules from the tissue, you cannot predict which type of disease or which type of problem you will have in this tissue specimen. So it's very important to get the complete whole idea of the tissue slide. So this is another problem. Again, it might occur during the process of tissue processing. Sometimes we use glycogen, sometimes we use lipids, sometimes we use different granules or low molecular weight substances that are not kept in the tissues by the fixative or removed by dehydration or even by the cleaning process. And it will make tissue appear not ideal. Again, we have slight cracks in the sections. Cracks يعني شقة بقى أجل شوكة والجريب وهي شقشق بها. أجل شقشق بها it will create spaces in the tissue, which is not favorable, not ideal to diagnose the disease. Other artifacts include wrinkles. بعض جا wrinkle أبي يعني تشوفوا ذكاء اللي جاتي شقشق بها وهي يعني fold بها. So when the tissue, the thin section, it will fold it on each other on different parts of it. It will be like wrinkle-like. So it gives a negative impression or gives false reading during the examination. Sometimes precipitates of stain. Stain كمان برك بيكي بكارينا هني كاتي زياتر بجي هيلين أو كاتا stain زياتر precipitate بالشيء if it's not ideal, not favorable. So this is another artifact. Regarding the microscope, being a microscope in more detail, we will discuss two types of microscopes: the light microscope, which is used routinely by the students, and the electron microscope you might see later on in the different stages of studying. We have the conventional compound microscope, or which uses different magnifying glasses for study. The light microscope uses visible light, photons to illuminate tissue sections. It has resolving power of 0.2 micrometer and magnification power of 1000 to 1500. طبعا عندها تانة هم مهمة باشا. It will differentiate the light microscope from the electron microscope. زور نبدأ فرقتان light electron microscope بزاني. نقطة زور مهم to know that the type of illumination used in light microscope we use a beam of light which is visible to human eye. So the main component is the photons. Here is used in light microscope to illuminate tissue. And when we see when we say resolving power, resolving power is very important. So it decides the quality of the microscope and the quality of the tissues when examined. So, as a definition, resolving power is the power to differentiate or see clearly two small particles in the body, in our cellular layer, in our extracellular material layer, to see those two different particles in a distance of 0.2 micrometer. يعني two particles هبه. Distance بين 0.2 micrometer, you can't see them as two different objects. but أجر هاتو space كان ل 0.2 micrometer كم تربة you cannot distinguish them. You will see them under light microscope as one particle or one part of the cell. فهذا أول powery microscope. لو حدا أتواني do different particle جوا كاتواني. So this is the meaning of resolving power. And we have a magnification power. أو قوتي لنسكيا شنو picture كمان بو أو image كمان بو جورعها. The magnification power. So the important is the resolving power. Resolving power مهمترة ل magnification power. because magnification power depends on the resolving power. Again, distinction it can be, you cannot magnify well, or the image is not ideal. So this is the compound microscope. Compound كش لو هاتوا كمجموعة لينسيتيا جارا the basic type of light microscope was single lens microscope. It's the compound اللي مجموعة لينسيتيا 3 sets of magnifying lenses. This is in the compound microscope, which is actually a conventional microscope. So the compound and the conventional are the same. And these are different parts. I have put this table for you for the use of different parts of the microscope. Which part you use a here. As for the examination, this is for your knowledge just. But see, different parts of so how to use and how to deal with the microscope. Otherwise, for examination, it is not needed to remind them or to know each detail of this one. So we have the different types of microscope. I think it is mentioned to you in the practical session. بس أول قلنا أقرأ موضوع speed compound كا diagram كا. أو يقولون بنات زاني lens ثاني للQI. So we have 3 sets of lens in the conventional. This is one set, which is the first set of lens, which is the condensing lenses. Functionally, it collects the light and focus it to be passed through the tissue. This is the condenser, which is the first part of the lens family in the compound microscope. While this group of lenses, a mature lens these are called objective lenses. Objective lens functionally is for the purposes of magnification. Power معين لسمسرة ودا بيس chill. So these are the different parts, power magnification of the objective lenses. And lastly, we have the eyepiece, which is another magnifying lens. Objective. It further magnifies the picture which is projected onto the eye by the objective lenses. So your microscope has 3 magnifications: the scanning, low and high. Each objective lens will have written the magnification on it. In addition to this, the ocular lens, which is the eyepiece, and the condenser one, or condenser objective eye lens. The total magnification of the image will be the ocular multiplied by the objective lens power. So in the case of the scanning type, طبعا خش يساوي للسيل scanning power magnified to more 4 times 4x, and you have the ocular lens ثابتة ocular كدايا دجار maximize يعني magnify. So you will multiply and the power of the magnification is 40 times larger than the actual or real image. Regarding the electron microscope, we have 2 types of electron microscope. بس أول كلمة بزاني electron microscope, the pictures are in white and dark, white and black. It is not colorful. The sections, as I told you, should be very thin. The microtome that is used should be very special, or diamond microtome, which is very hard for these sections to section them to 40 nanometer or 90 nanometer, for example. And the light which is used, the source of illumination. And هش تشوف ما نبغى examination can be illuminated به. أبي هناك كريتون. شو هناك كريتون? The state of light we say using a beam of photons in the form of the visible light. In the state of electron microscope, we use a beam of electrons. أو فقط نزورهم احتمال الامتحان بود به what are the differences between the usage of light microscope and electron microscope and نطالع بهم من شكل. So the magnification power is much more than the light microscope because the resolving power of the electron microscope is 0.1 nanometer. أو كان شنو 0.2 micrometer. ليتان تكنيشن. So it's with high resolution, so the magnification power will reach about 400,000 times. يعني أمر أطرا ديتيل على structure يسيلا ده على cell wall على membrane هم يدققها. أجر section كام ولا كبير section كابين. We have two types: the transmission electron microscope (TEM), which is the original form of electron microscope. The transmission electron microscope uses a high voltage electron beam to create an image. In the scanning type, and you don't draw here the TEM and the SEM, which is the second type, it is unlike the TEM, where the electrons of high voltage beam carry the image of the specimen. The electron beam of the scanning electron microscope does not at any time carry a complete image of the specimen. ناتشي بنا specimen بس outline specimen كبشانها أو الأسرة أو جهازها. So it has certain usages, specialized for certain purposes. بلام transmission هلا ناو كيف هو transit يقابل هم اللي يريد شو قاعد على سرعة تأخذ وسوي شو every single detail. أنا سيري كين وكو diagram. Here we have this tube-like structure, the transmission electron microscope. Less scanning again is a tube-like instrument, and it has a cathode and anode and a source for creation of electron beam. They heat a tungsten filament, so after heating it will emit electrons. These electrons will pass between the anode and the cathode and through a group of lenses, and it will reach the subject of interest or the tissue of interest to illuminate it and to magnify it. You can add this difference. You can write it down. Another difference is that in the light microscope, the person or the pathologist or the human himself examines by eye, under eye examination. While in the state of the electron microscope, both types, there is a detector. Because the human eye cannot detect the electrons, not one BBNE. Basha Buheliera, eyepiece mani, Cassania than she had to tube of examine and show a after being hit by the electron beam. Instead, there is a photographic plate or a coupled charged camera. It will receive this emission of the electrons and it will analyze it. And later on, it will project it, and it's connected to a computer, so it will project the image to the computer. طبعاً Anjora detection, it further magnifies the picture, further determines through a specific imaging processing techniques. للكاميرا كخويها يعني it is digital. So لو حاولتها شيء بس كمان is highly magnified and much clearer. And this is the actual instrument, you can see it. This is for 10 and this is for 10. This is a huge instrument. لها مو خستخانين لها مو شينين specialized region because of مكلفة جهازها. This is regarding first lecture of the electron microscopy. If you have